You might be asking, what's the secret to having the very best financial management system environment? Well, I think it comes by first asking the question, what leads to really bad ones? And I think about some wisdom that a mentor shared with me. He told me that every fight is really a fight about power and control. Who has the power and who's in control? Well, this shows up in nonprofit finances many different ways. But here's a couple of examples. The accounting staff person saying, well, why does so and so spend money on this? Or why did they buy that? How come we're buying this? Why are we buying that? Or it might show up with someone who is privy to payroll information saying, why is so and so getting paid that much? Or maybe just having their own opinions about who brings more value to the organization. And even practical things like, why does that department get to take so many conferences and why do they get to have that? Well, all of these things are really questions about power and control. Who's setting the rules for how the nonprofit is going to spend money? And I'll tell you that the secret to having a very solid, strong financial management environment is accountability. Accountability is really for all levels. And the tone is set at the top. So who's at the top? Well, the board of the nonprofit. They should be approving a budget. And that budget should set the boundaries for what's okay. It does it at the big picture level. So conferences, this is how much is available for conferences in the year. Staff pay, this is the compensation scale that the board has approved. Why are they spending money on such and such? Does it fall? The question would be within the scope of what's expected, how purchasing can happen. Is it over a dollar amount that requires a second person's approval? See, that's how you establish accountability as an antidote to the battle of power and control. Moving on even to the next layer of leadership, all staff should have budgets. They should have clear purchasing expectations that would address the dollar levels they can purchase at. Whose approvals are required when it's over that? What kind of bidding or quote procedure is required when a purchase is, say, over a higher dollar threshold? And what kind of receipts and documentation of purchases are expected to be filed for every purchase? Those purchases should then go through an approval process that even involves finance staff. And finance staff, they should know that there are expectations and they should know how to look for and inspect for those expectations. And most of all, they need to know that they've got the support of leadership and, if necessary, the board to continue to maintain a culture of accountability. So the secret is accountability. Now, accountability is an interesting word. The definition actually tells us that it's the rare state of being accountable. Or excuse me, the quality or state of being accountable. I said rare because it really does feel like it happens sometimes in rare form in nonprofits. But the second part of that definition is that there's an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or account for one's actions. See, dealing with money, everyone touching it needs to know that they're accountable. It's not our own. And therefore, we should know that we should be able to share and show what's happening behind each transaction. And I think accountability, practically, it starts with clear expectations. So having a written set of purchasing guidelines, a written statement about how we use and manage our budgets, a written statement about how we compensate employees. The wisdom of scripture tells us that you should take a vision for something and write it, make it plain on paper, so that anyone who reads it can run with it. So if you've written down expectations and something doesn't seem to be going right, you'll be able to do one of two things. First, you may just get what you expect. Second, you'll be able to have a clear conversation when there is a gap between expectation and reality. That is true accountability. If you're not sure how your organization measures up in this respect, I've prepared a 12-question quiz that's really good at seeing kind of what the strength of the culture is in your organization. So jump online, teresaclark.com, and you can grab my quiz at the very top header banner. I'll include a link here today.